Hello everyone, welcome to a new video of Draco Hobby Center. Today we have a really exciting new TCG that we want to teach you how to play. We have Lorcana, the new Disney TCG by Ravensburger. We have a special invite today, Mr. Pollo.
Hello guys.
And he doesn't know how to play, so I'll be teaching him so that he'll be making questions that probably you guys have. If we don't answer any question, you can comment it down below. Remember to subscribe, and this is going to be the first video of Lorcana of many more to come. We're going to be doing deck techs, we're going to be doing gameplay videos, and this video, so that you know, it's going to have a basic understanding of how the game works, like the phases, what you do, how you build decks, and then we're going to play one match so that you can really learn how to play. And we're going to be using proxy cards because the deck has not been, the game has not been released yet. It's coming out in August with like a kind of pre-release, gonna be in Gen Con, and then 1 week later, about 1 week later, all the stores are gonna have it in stock. So let's give it a start. We have here some proxy cards. So you know, proxy cards are just printouts so that we can start testing the game. You can find that in lorcania.com. We'll leave the link in the description, and let's start. So what we're gonna do first is how a card works, how you read a card. So here we have, for example, Captain Hook. We have three types of cards in Lorcana. One is characters, the other is actions or events, and then we have item cards. We'll go back to that in a second. So let's see first a character. So a character has a cost. It has a power. Like, we might get some terms wrong here, but it's so that you learn how to play. So kind of like in MTG, power and resistance. So basically this is how much damage the character can take, and this is how much damage the character deals. And then down here we have the character's abilities and how much lore he has. And that's important because in this game you win by questing, and this is how you quest. So these are the points you get when you quest. So for example, Captain Hook has 1, and if we see here another character, we have a bunch of characters just with 1. So for example, Mickey, he has 2 lores. So when he quests, he gives you 2 points. And basically the idea of the game is that whoever gets to 20 first wins the game. So you win the game by questing.
Can you take quest points from your opponent, or if they have advanced 15 points, they're just 5 away from winning?
Exactly, you can't. Right now you can't take quest points from your opponent. Oh, actually there is one card. It's an Aladdin card. He costs 7 lore. And when he comes into play, I don't remember exactly what he does, but I remember he takes 2 lore from your opponent and gives you 2 lore.
Okay.
So it's a pretty strong card. We've seen some decks built around him, but yeah, you can actually do that. I'm sure we're going to see that a lot more in the sets to come. It's very important to know that right now there's only like 80 cards out that we've been like previewed, of 204 cards that the first chapter is going to have. So let's continue looking at the cards. It's really important, this swirl around the cost. That means that you can use this card in your ink pool. And basically your ink pool is how you play characters. So we're going to see that ahead. But then, so you know, for example, this card does not have a swirl around the cost. So this card cannot be put into your ink pool to generate resources to then play more characters or events.
Okay. So the game works as some other games with a resource-based system, and you have to use your cards either for their effect on the front of the card or as a resource to be able to play other cards.
Exactly.
Okay.
So basically any card that has a swirl around the cost can be used as ink, and then you can use that ink to cast other characters or cards or events.
Okay.
So now building your deck. Now that we know how to read a Lorcana card, or let's see really fast the other type of cards. Actions are basically cards that you play and immediately go to your discard pile, and they do an effect. For example, Fire the Cannons deals 2 damage to a chosen character.
Okay. So in the case of Hook here, he would get the 2 damage, and since he has only 2 resistance, he would die.
He would be banished. Exactly.
He would be banished.
He would go to your discard pile.
Okay.
Then you have another type of event, which is a song. So right now we have 2 types of events. It's the normal events, and then you have songs, which work exactly the same way, but additionally, a character can sing the song, which means you can tap that character to play the event without paying the cost.
Okay. And does, since this has a cost of 2, either I pay 2 resources from my ink pool, or I tap 1 character, or is it like a character that has 2 power or something like?
It has it specifies here. It has to be a character with cost 2 or more. So
Oh,
basically, Hook would not be able to sing the song, but you could use Mini to sing the song "Be Our Guest." You would just have to tap her, or in this game, exhaust her. Like it's called exhausting in Lorcana.
Okay.
And exerting. Sorry, it's exerting, not exhausting. You know, everyone's using different names for this. In Lorcana, it's going to be exerting. So you can exert your character to sing that song, which means she wouldn't be able to quest, she wouldn't be able to challenge. We'll see that later, but basically that's how songs work.
Okay.
And then we have items, which are also a different type of card. They stay in the field, not like events where you play them and then they go to your discard pile. The items stay on the field, and then they have an effect that happens either when you play it or that you can use later on.
Okay, cool.
So that's the type of cards. Now, up next, how do you build a deck? So this game works with 60 card decks. That's the minimum number of cards. You can have anything above 60.
Okay.
And you can only include 2 colors. So right now, there's like 6 colors, I think, being yellow, green, red, blue. The other one's steel, which is kind of like
like silver.
Hook.
Yeah,
like silver. And then basically there's like another color and
red. I think.
Yeah, so basically yellow, purple, green, red, blue, and gray.
Okay.
And they're called amber, amethyst, emerald, ruby, sapphire, and steel. Okay. And you can either do a deck with 1 color ink or with 2 color inks, but you can't have a deck with more than 2 colors.
Okay, cool.
So that's going to be really important further ahead. It's important to specify that this is going to be a competitive TCG. They've said they're going to have some support for the local game stores so that they can run leagues. But it's also important to know that this is a very easy game. It's not as complex as other TCGs. We'll get into that later, but basically this is a TCG that you can play with your kids, but you can also go to a tournament and it's going to be exciting, and it's going to be challenging tournaments.
Yeah, and you just expect Disney to build something that can be for the general public, but also if you want to do something more competitive with it.
Exactly. Okay, so up next, that's basically building your deck. It's important to know that you shouldn't include that many cards that don't have a swirl, or it could happen that you have a full hand of cards that can't go to your inkwell, so you can't play other cards and then you're stuck. So there's going to be some type of like interesting deck building mechanics where the really strong cards probably are not going to have the possibility to go into the inkwell, so you want to include them, but then you don't want to include that many, etc. Now, winning the game. So we've kind of seen that already. You have to quest up to 20 lore, and basically there's a bunch of characters that have lore, but there's also other characters that don't, so they're only here like to challenge or to do abilities. So that's also important. Not every character is going to have lore and the capacity to quest. So basically, how does the game start? You draw 7 cards, and then you can mulligan, and that means you can alter your starting hand by you choose any number of cards you want from your hand. You send them to the bottom of your deck and draw that same number of cards.
Okay. So basically, unlike other games where you just shuffle the full hand and draw a new hand, this is more like kind of the classic poker where you choose 3 and then get 3 back.
Exactly. So
okay, cool.
It's a lot more forgiving. There's a bunch of, games that don't allow this because it's easier to look for combo pieces, etc. But basically, in this game, that's the type of mulligan you have, and you can only do it once.
Okay, 1 mulligan. Okay.
Up next, we have basically the phases of a turn. There's only 2 phases, the beginning and like your main phase. The beginning is where you ready all your characters, so basically all the characters that you've exerted on previous turns, you ready them at the beginning of your turn. Okay. You also ready your ink pool, so basically when you decide to play, for example, if I want to play Captain Hook into the ink pool, I would put it face down in my ink pool, and then I would use this to exert it and play other characters, and basically readying it is you do it at the beginning of your turn.
Okay, so just as a general understanding, when you use a card for your ink pool, it's not going to be face up, but rather face down. And then when you use that ink, I don't know how you call it, you have to tap it in order to exert it.
Exactly.
And at the beginning of your next turn, you untap whichever things are tapped, either on the ink pool or here on the field.
Yeah.
As face-up cards, they both go back to like upright position.
Exactly. We're gonna see this later when we do the example of gameplay. It's gonna be a lot more clear, but basically you can play any card that has a swirl from your hand into your ink pool, use that to play costs, and then in your ready phase, you just, whatever you used the previous turn to pay, you untap it or you ready it, and then you can use it again this turn.
Okay, I have a question. How many cards can I put in my ink pool per turn?
You can only put one card in your ink pool per turn.
Okay.
And yeah, and basically you can play any amount of characters and events that you can pay for with your ink.
Okay, and each card gives me one ink, right?
Yes, and it's also important to know that right now, with the cards we know, there's no way of getting something back from the ink pool. So whatever you put in your ink pool,
Okay.
you know you're not gonna get back. And so you gotta make some decisions on what cards you're gonna use as ink in this match. Maybe something that you don't need against this certain opponent, or but that's also a really important factor right now. And I think that gives a very interesting mechanic to the game, where you have to decide what cards you're gonna be using as ink in every one of your games.
Okay, I have just one more question, because maybe I want, I don't know, I have a card with a very high cost that I can't play at the beginning, so I'm probably going to use it in my ink pool, but then I would also like to have that card later on in the game. So is there like a restriction on how many copies of the same card or the same character can I have? Like, I don't know, I've seen that there are different types of Mickey Mouse, for instance, cards, so can I have as many Mickeys as I want, just one Mickey?
Yeah, so for example, if we zoom in here, you can see this is Captain Hook, Forceful Duelist.
Okay.
So you can have up to 4 of each card.
Okay.
But you can also have 4 of Captain Hook, Captain of the Jolly Roger.
Okay.
So you could have a deck with 8 different Captain Hooks, as long as they have different, like,
Yeah,
names.
okay, so if there's 4 copies of each, then that's okay, even if they're both Captain Hook's cards.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
And here you can see, for example, is a more powerful Captain Hook card, but he does not have a swirl around the ink. So that's when you start saying, okay, I can bring in more powerful characters that have great abilities, but that's going to make it harder for me to build my ink and make, like, he's also going to limit the amount, like the decisions I can make regarding what I play into the ink pool.
Okay, is there any way to get more than one card into the ink pool? Like, there's some games where you have like special cards that give you more resources.
Yes, absolutely. We've seen so far that blue is a color that has a lot of, like, we call it ramp. You can play more cards in your ink pool. So for example, this Mickey Mouse, Detective, his special ability is that on play, you can put the top card of your deck into your inkwell, face down and exert it.
Okay, cool.
Just realize we can call it an ink pool and it's inkwell, but kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
It works. Okay, so next up we have timing and priority. This can be important to some people that are like more have more experience in TCGs. In this particular game so far, there's no spells or like cards that you can play at instant speed or like in your opponent's turn. There's very few things you can do in your opponent's turn. So there's not that many problem around who has initiative, who can do something at what point. Now basically you play out your turn, you pass, and then your opponent plays out his turn. A lot more similar to Pokemon, where you're not interacting during your opponent's turn.
Okay, cool.
So that makes it a lot more simple and a lot less things to actually explain to someone that wants to start playing with a trainer.
Okay, just one more question in that. I get it that as the opponent, I cannot play anything during the turn of my opponent, of your turn, for instance. But can you play things at instant speed, or for players of other games like first tempo or something, within your same turn? Like, you say you try to quest with Mickey and then you play something in between, or if you have declared an action, it has to resolve before you can do a different action on that turn?
Right now we don't know any of any events that empower a quest or something. Like, you can do it, there's something characters that give you more power, more strength, but you do that before attacking, like.
Okay, so no instant speed.
Yeah, no, and there's no abilities also that you can do like at instant speed, so nothing like that. Just play your cards, play them out, and that's it.
Okay.
Okay, so we've already talked about making ink and playing cards. Basically, again, you can only play one card into your inkwell at a turn, and you use that ink to play your characters or play your events, and that's basically how it works. Really simple. Now questing, basically we've already talked about it a little bit, but you can exert a character in your turn and you would gain this amount of lore. So immediately if I quest with Captain Hook, I would have 1 lore, and that's 1 towards the goal of 20.
Okay, and then with the card you showed me early, Mickey that has 2 lores, questing him would give me just 2 points.
Exactly. So if I quest in my turn, I can quest with any amount of characters I want. If I quest with this 2, I would have 3 lore this turn.
Okay.
It's important to know, then there's also something called challenge. So I can attack my opponent characters, I can challenge them, and I would compare. That's when they would, you don't directly challenge your opponent, you challenge his characters.
Okay.
So for example, if Captain Hook were to challenge this Captain Hook, he has a special ability where when challenging, he gains +2 power. So he will deal 3 damage through this Captain Hook. We would have to mark it with probably dice or anything you have, any markers you have, because damage stays on the character.
Indefinitely, even after turns?
Yeah, exactly. Indefinitely. There's certain cards that allow you to heal your characters.
Okay.
But it's similar to Hearthstone or other games where damage stays on the character.
Okay.
And in this case, this Captain Hook would receive 3 damage, so he would be banished, and he would go to your discard pile. So the solution of that would be this Captain Hook is banished, and this Captain Hook has 3 damage on him, if he was a challenger.
Okay.
If you challenge a challenger character, he would only deal 1 damage because he's not challenging. So basically this ability called Challenger, that he gets +2 is only when he challenges, not when he's challenged.
No, when he's challenged, okay, not for every battle.
So that's also, you're gonna see some abilities where you have to make decisions whether you want to quest with him, or maybe you want to leave him ready so that they don't challenge him and he only deals 1, but then he can deal 3.
Oh, okay, I have one question from what you just said, and it's that you said if I leave him ready, he cannot be challenged. You can only challenge characters that have been exerted for questing.
For questing or for challenging other characters. Basically, you can only challenge a character that is exerted.
Okay, so if I challenged with this hook on my previous turn, that you can challenge my hook, or if I use him to quest, you can challenge it. But if he stays in ready position on my board, then you cannot do anything.
I can deal. I can, for example, use an event to deal damage.
Yeah.
I can use events on cards that are not exerted, but I can only challenge an exerted character.
Okay.
So that's also really important because there's some really strong characters that you don't want to lose. You just want them for their abilities. For example, let's see, Stitch, who is really popular right now because he has a really great ability. His special ability is that whenever you play a character with cost 2 or less, you can immediately exert him to draw a card.
Okay.
So you don't want to challenge with Stitch because then you can lose that excellent ability where you're drawing cards every turn. Okay. But at the same time, he has 3 lore, so you actually also want him questing because he gives you 3 lore per turn.
Okay, but then if I activate the ability and I exert him, then on the next turn the opponent could challenge him because he's been exerted in order to activate the ability to draw a card.
Right. No, his ability is you exert the 2 or less cards.
Oh, the new card that
exactly. If I have Stitch, I play Hook, I exert him, I draw, and then I can play Meaning, I exert and draw, and that's how it works.
Okay.
Also, there's other abilities. We can see that later on. For example, Shifting. You can play 4 and play the Stitch onto a Stitch that you already own in the game. So
okay.
We're already seeing that there's like multiple type of characters with the same name, but so for example, you
different
can have
versions of Stitch or different versions of Hook.
So you could play this Rockstar Stitch paying 4 because he has Shift 4 into this Stitch that costs you.
And what is the purpose of playing it into another card?
Basically that he's cheaper. You don't have to play 6, but you play 4.
Yeah.
And also he can attack or quest the same turn. He can challenge or quest the same turn you play. Because there's also a rule where whatever character you play cannot quest or challenge the same turn that he comes into play.
Okay.
Unless he has a special ability that allows it. Okay. Now there's an ability called Rush, where you can immediately challenge, not quest, with a character that has Rush.
But then, okay, so if I have the 2 Stitch cards for the example, I already had this Stitch, then I can shift 4 and play this onto this one. When you say onto, does it mean like it covers the card and now it's like I have this version of Stitch instead of this one, and this one just kind of stays under? And I'm guessing when this goes to the discard pile, then both of them would go.
Both go to the discard pile, and it's also very important to note that he would keep any damage that was on the previous stage. So if the stage had 1 damage on him, and you shift into him, this stage would still carry 1 damage with him.
Okay, and what about abilities? Like if of course this Stitch doesn't have any abilities from what I can see, but if the card that had abilities and then I put another one on it due to the shift ability, does it keep the abilities from the other one?
You use it.
Just a new one.
Exactly. You're basically covering it and you don't have that card anymore.
Okay, cool.
Great. So that's Lorcana for you guys. It's really simple. We wanted to give you like a rundown of the rules, a breakdown really fast. It's a simple game. And now let's go over to actually one game. We're going to be playing steel, yellow and gray against blue and red. Is it red? No, it's actually blue and purple. So blue and purple against gray and yellow. Okay, so we're basically playing a game that works around Aurora and Mickey, Sorcerer, and Stitch with basically Captain Hook and a lot of removal spells. So that should be really fun.
Okay, just one more question. Is there any interaction between the colors? Like, for instance, in order to play Be Our Guest or any song that is yellow, do I have to make a yellow character sing it? Or if I have a character that is red or a different color in my deck because I decided to build 2 colors, can I use, like, is there any synergy between the colors, like games like Pokemon or Magic that you need a particular color to play something of that color?
No, so here you don't need that. It's also, we can really run fast explanation of the colors. So basically yellow, which it's called Amber, it's pretty good at buffing and protecting other cards.
Okay.
Amethyst, which is purple, you can use abilities and actions to control the table.
Okay.
Then Emerald, which is the green, it's very adaptive and like you can use it to like get cards back from your discard pile to your hand. They revolve around events, doing like tricks on your opponent, so you can force a character from your opponent to attack to challenge. That way you can defeat him next turn, etc. So green is also pretty cool. Right now there's not that many green cards that have been previewed, so we have to wait a little bit to have like good competitive green decks. There's right now Ruby, which is red, and it's fast and it's aggressive and it can deal damage directly to the characters or banish them, and it has rush, so you can play characters that can challenge immediately, so that surprises your opponent. Maybe he's questing because you don't have any characters and he thinks his characters are safe, and then you can play characters that can attack immediately. Then there's Sapphire, which is blue, and it focuses on playing like we saw, like more ink into your inkwell and also using more item cards. And Steel, which is gray, has a really big defense, so you have abilities like Bodyguard, which is really great right now, where if you have an exerted character that has Bodyguard, so for example Hercules, your opponent can only challenge him. So you can have other characters without Bodyguard, and then you play Hercules, and then your opponent is forced to challenge him first before challenging your other characters. So Steel focuses a lot on that. Mickey has the same ability. He also has Bodyguard, and they're pretty strong characters. You can see Hercules at 3/3, Mickey's at 2/7.
Yeah, so he's not gonna deal too much damage, but he's a defensive buff.
Exactly. A really big defensive buff. It's really interesting. Mickey, for example, says he gives +1 power to your other Musketeers. So we start seeing some synergies here. Probably there's going to be decks, a Musketeer deck, a Mickey Mouse deck, something that we're pretty sure to have that type of cards in the future.
Okay, just 2 questions now that came up with what you've said here in the end. First, you were talking about like the effects of the different colors and everything. There's kind of a surprise element, of course, if you don't know what colors I'm playing. You say you play a bunch of cards because you think they're not going to be challenged, and then it turns out I'm playing red and I get to challenge them immediately and mess up your strategy. So like, how are matches in Lorcana supposed to play? Like, is it like a best of 3? Do you show your cards? Do we know anything of that yet, or is it?
That's interesting. We still don't know that much about if it's going to be 2 out of 3. We don't know if there's going to be like a sideboard like in Magic where you can switch out some cards and bring in some new cards to have like a better match against your opponent. We don't know that. I think it's probably going to be best of 1, as we're trying to keep the game simple. That's what I would think, but we still really don't know. What I've seen, and that could be because there's very few cards, is that a game can take a little bit longer than your usual TCG, but I'm sure that's going to be fixed when there's really aggressive decks and when there's really controlled decks. That's going to decide how long the match is. Probably if you're playing, both of you are playing red, it's going to be a fast-paced game. But it's interesting because it's different mechanics. You know, this questing mechanic, we've never seen that before. It really makes some very interesting game decisions. We've been playing the game a lot and we've really liked it. That's really important to say here. I think it's a really promising game. The artwork is really nice. It's been exclusively done for this game, so it's not like you're having pictures of the movies or pictures of books or what of like drawings they already have. No, they've made all the art new for this game.
Yeah, and as we were talking earlier, it's kind of something you just expect from Disney. You know, they have this pool of great characters that are embedded into popular culture everywhere. They're gonna use. I mean, the illustrations are great. It brings so many memories, right? With the songs, you just know the song from the movie, and it gets you excited to play each card.
I think that's going to be really important on how popular this game is going to be. I think whoever thinks maybe this game is not gonna be as popular or maybe has that idea, I think this game is going to be really popular. We see games like Pokemon, which are really popular, but if we go like deeply down to see like the cultural relationship we have in the US and in Latin America with Disney, I think it's a lot stronger than the relationship we have with Pokemon. Like, we all grew up with Pokemon, don't get me wrong, I love Pokemon, but I think all these characters bring back so many memories. They've been a huge part of our lives since we're like basically even born. Like, our parents already are buying Disney t-shirts for us as we're little babies.
Yeah.
And this is gonna be really huge on how popular this game is going to be. And I think they've done a really good job at making a game that can be really easy to teach, but at the same time has some complex decisions to make a nice competitive,
scene,
exactly.
Yeah. And it has like those two things. What you were saying, it's a game that everyone can recognize the characters, that they grew up with them, so it really gets you excited. Even as a kid, like right now, if you're 8 years old and you're seeing those movies, it's your life. But if you're an adult that's playing like you, or even people that are older than us, you're gonna see the characters that you grew up with, and that's gonna be great. And it really gets you excited to use Captain Hook to try to challenge Mickey to a fight. Like that just has like a kind of a magic that you expect from Disney.
Absolutely. And there's so much content, there's so many movies. We've already seen, like, they've done this whole first chapter, what we've seen, with only a couple of characters. Like, we haven't seen a bunch of movies at Disney that are really popular, that everyone's excited about. And they've done a great job, I think, of, you know, getting a couple of interesting characters, but also showing that they're gonna have also items. Like, we're seeing Coconut Basket, which is a card that I think it's pretty strong, that could have a good like scene in the competitive scene, and it's just a Coconut Basket. So the possibilities are huge around how many cards this game is actually gonna have, and what it could be in the future. Ravensburger is a very serious company, and they've talked a lot about how they want to have a competitive scene, the support they're going to give to local stores, and they have a great relationship with big stores in the US like Target, Walmart, and I think that's also going to help a lot scalping. You know, the modern games, the new TCG games are being really popular with investors and people that are just trying to like get advantage of low printing capacities. And I think that this good relationship with these big stores are going to maybe disincentivize scalpers of just hoarding product. If we have a good inflow of product hitting these huge stores every week or every other day, I'm sure that's gonna make it a lot harder for the scalpers to raise the prices and make this a difficult game to play and collect.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also, like, it's something that parents are going to want to buy for their children, that everyone wants to kind of have and see what the cards are, play a game or two, maybe you get interested in it. And also, as you were saying, they have so many movies, they have so many things that are exciting that they could print, that they give you an infinite possibility of interactions, abilities, ways that one movie, like for instance, you know how Disney has like those theories that it's like then the parents of this character in this movie are the same ones that ended up in this movie and blah blah blah. And they could actually kind of play around that and make a very interesting universe in which you could play Lorcana, which would also further the excitement over the TCG, because it also helps develop their own story, their own characters.
I think what you just said is really important, and they've talked a lot about it in their, like when Ravensburger has talked about the game.
Yeah.
And he said they want to write their own stories. They want Lorcana to have its own lore. So I think that's going to be really awesome to see new stories with the characters we love, and that's going to be huge for this game as well.
All right, I look forward to playing it. Let's go. Let's try it.
Let's go. So see you in the game.